So, hello students, welcome to this revision session on 12th economics. Today we are going to revise chapter number 3b, that is elasticity of demand, and also we are going to complete the exercise part related to that chapter. So first, let us go to the screen of the textbook. So I have taken you to the screen of the textbook. Please refer page number 28 of your 12th eco textbook. Okay. So elasticity of demand, we have discussed this chapter in detail in our face-to-face batch as well as in our virtual batch. So elasticity of demand, first we will go with the introduction. We have seen the law of demand. So law of demand explains to us that when price rises, demand falls, and when price falls, demand rises. But it does not explain to the extent of which the demand responds to the changes in the price. Therefore, we need a concept of elasticity of demand. So what is elasticity of demand? So elasticity is responsiveness. So basically, according to Marshall, elasticity of demand is great or small according to the amount demanded, which rises much or little for a given fall in price, and a quantity demanded falls much or little for a given rise in its price. So it means that when price rises, demand falls, price falls, demand rises. But elasticity measures the exact change in percentage of quantity demanded with respect to percentage change in price of commodity. So elasticity of demand च्या broadly 4 definitions. First आहे it is change in demand due to change in determinants of demand. Second आहे it could be proportionate change in quantity demanded with respect to proportionate change in determinants of demand. Third, it is percentage change in quantity demanded with respect to percentage change in determinants of demand. Fourth, it is degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded with respect to degree of responsiveness of determinants of demand. Here, if we have to define price elasticity of demand, or if we have to define the cross elasticity of demand, or if we have to define the income elasticity of demand, all we have to do is to remember these 4 definitions, and we have to just replace that particular determinant with the words group of word determinants of demand. For example, price elasticity of demand, if we want to define, then we have to remove the determinants of demand word and we have to replace it by price. That is change in demand due to change in determinants of demand, no. Change in demand due to change in price. Proportionate change in quantity demanded with respect to proportionate change in price of commodity. Percentage change in quantity demanded with respect to percentage change in price of commodity. Degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded with respect to degree of responsiveness of price of commodity. Same goes for income. Change in demand due to change in income of a consumer. Proportionate change in quantity demanded with respect to proportionate change in income of consumer. Degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded with respect to degree of responsiveness of income of consumer. Percentage change in quantity demanded with respect to percentage change in income of consumer. Same goes for the cross elasticity of demand. Change in demand due to change in prices of related goods. Proportionate change in quantity demanded with respect to proportionate change in prices of relative goods. Degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded with respect to degree of responsiveness in prices of related goods. Percentage change in quantity demanded with respect to percentage change in the prices of related goods. Now, if we speak mathematically, the formula for the price elasticity of demand is percentage change in Q upon percentage change in P. For income elasticity of demand, the formula is percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in Y, that is income. So percentage change in Q upon percentage change in Y. And for cross elasticity, the formula is percentage change in the quantity of X divided by percentage change in price of Y, where X and Y are related goods. So broadly, this is how you can remember the entire types of elasticity of demand. So Elasticity can be income elasticity, means change in demand due to change in income. It could be cross elasticity, change in demand due to change in prices of related goods, or it could be price elasticity. So price elasticity is change in demand due to change in price. Now income elasticity चा formula इथे दिलाय, percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in income, or you can say that y delta q upon q delta y. त्याच्यामध्ये y is the original income, q is the original quantity demanded, delta q change in quantity, delta y change in income. Next is cross elasticity of demand. So it is change in quantity demanded with respect to change in prices of the related goods. For example, mathematically cross elasticity is percentage change in quantity demanded of A upon percentage change in price of B, where A and B are related goods. So symbolically it is percentage QA upon percentage PB, or alternatively you can write it as a delta QA PB upon delta PB QA. So this is the formula for the cross elasticity. Next is the price elasticity of demand. So it is change in demand due to change in price. Mathematically, it is percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. So it is percentage delta Q upon percentage delta T. So here elasticity of demand is percentage delta Q upon percentage delta P, or the alternatively it could be P delta Q upon Q delta P. Now there are 5 types of price elasticity of demand. First, perfectly inelastic demand. Second, relatively inelastic demand. Third, unitary elastic demand. Fourth, relatively elastic demand. And fifth, perfectly elastic demand. Now, this is the logical sequence which you can remember to understand this concept thoroughly. But in the textbook, they have given the different sequence. So we will go as per the textbook, because this is the revision session related to exam. So we have to stick to the textbook concept. So first they have given is perfectly elastic demand. This is the first type of price elasticity of demand. It means that due to slightest change in the price, demand changes infinitely. So percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price, याचा answer आहे infinity. So here the demand curve is horizontal demand curve, which is parallel to the x-axis, and elasticity is infinite. Second, perfectly inelastic demand. Here percentage change in the price has no effect on the quantity demanded. It means that irrespective of change in the price, quantity demanded remains the same. So here the demand curve is vertical straight line, which is parallel to the y-axis, and elasticity is 0. Third is unitary elastic demand. It means that percentage change in price leads to proportionate change in quantity demanded. Means percentage change in demand and percentage change in price are exactly equal to each other. So here the demand curve is like a rectangular hyperbola. So it's a normal demand curve. Fourth is relatively elastic demand. So when a percentage change in price leads to more than proportionate change in quantity demanded, so here demand is relatively elastic. It means that percentage delta Q is more than percentage delta P. So here the demand curve is like this, that is, it's a flatter kind of a demand curve basically. So it's a flatter demand curve which you can observe in the diagram. So here elasticity of demand is greater than 1 but less than infinity. And last is relatively inelastic demand. So percentage change in quantity demanded is less than percentage change in price of commodity. So percentage delta Q is less than percentage delta P. So here the demand curve appears to be like this. means the demand curve with a steeper slope. So this is how the demand curve appears with a steeper slope. Here elasticity of demand is more than 0 but less than 1. So one table is given which we have completed at the time of our face-to-face batch as well as our virtual batch, but still I will do it once again. We have to complete the table: degree of price elasticity of demand, types of elasticity of demand, and description is given. So in case of perfectly inelastic demand, elasticity is 0. In case of relatively inelastic demand, elasticity is more than 0 but less than 1. When elasticity is infinite, it means it is called perfectly elastic demand. Okay. Now, when demand is relatively elastic, it means that change in demand is more than change in price. And here it is called unitary elastic. Okay. So here we have completed the table related to this. Now, having understood the types of price elasticity of demand, let us go to the methods of measuring price elasticity of demand. First is ratio method or percentage method. So here we obtain the price elasticity by using either this formula P delta Q upon Q delta P, or we use percentage delta Q upon percentage delta P. So illustration formula is given. You can revise. Second, in case of total expenditure method, now I want to clarify related to total expenditure method. The explanation which is given in the textbook and the explanation of total expenditure method which is given in the reference book, especially for the professional courses, the reference book which are prescribed by the professional institutes, I see clearly a difference between the interpretation which they have done in the textbook and the interpretation which they have done in the textbooks for the professional courses. For example, for CA, CS, CMA courses, they have their own modules which are published by the respective institutes. And what do they suggest here? That in the total expenditure method, they have given the different explanation. For example, here they have said that with a given change in the price of a commodity, total outlay increases, then it is elasticity is greater than 1. When total outlay remains the same, elasticity is equal to 1. And when the total outlay decreases, elasticity is less than 1. But you know what is being conceptually taught over the years and what is being included in the courses for the CACSCMA, the interpretation is a bit different. But I have already clarified about this in my virtual lecture as well as in my face-to-face batch. I don't want to create further confusion related to this. So I would say to all the students of 12, please stick to the interpretation which is given in the textbook. So please remember this part as it is given in the textbook. So please note that in case of total expenditure method, we have to refer the total expenditure which is obtained by price into quantity first. Secondly, if the total expenditure remains the same irrespective of change in price, then unitary elastic demand will prevail. So elasticity of demand will be 1. If total outlay increases with the change in price, then the elasticity will be greater than 1. And elasticity will be greater than 1. And if the total outlay decreases with the change in price, elasticity will be less than 1. schedule is given here in the textbook, which you can refer later. Next method is known as a geometric method or point method. So it is known as point method, or it is known as geometric method. Okay. So here the demand curve could be linear or a non-linear demand curve. Now in case of linear demand curve, we use the formula, and the formula is lower segment of the demand curve upon upper segment of the demand curve. So lower segment of the demand curve upon upper segment of the demand curve. This is the formula which we use for the linear demand curve. And for the non-linear demand curve, we use the formula that is lower segment of the tangent below a given point upon upper segment of a tangent below a given upper segment of the tangent above a given point. Okay. So याच्यामध्ये डिटेल जे काय वर्किंग आहे ते आपण केलेलं होतं ऍट द टाइम ऑफ अवर फेस टू फेस बॅच एज वेल एज अवर व्हर्च्युअल बॅच. मी एकदा जस्ट फक्त तुम्हाला रिमाइंड करून देण्याचं काम करणार आहे की ज्या वेळेला आपण लिनियर डिमांड कर्व किंवा नॉन लिनियर डिमांड कर्व कुठलाही डिमांड कर्व ज्यावेळेला आपण त्यावेळेला नेहमी लक्षात ठेवा at the highest point of the demand curve, demand or elasticity of demand असणार आहे infinity. At the lowest point, elasticity असणार आहे 0. At the midpoint, elasticity असणार आहे 1. आता या पॉइंटला इथं या एरियामध्ये कोणताही पॉइंट असेल, लोएस्ट अँड मिडल मोस्ट पॉइंट, elasticity will be less than 1. Of course, more than 0. And if any point lies between the highest point and the midpoint, then the elasticity will be more than 1. Same goes for the linear demand curve and same goes for the non-linear demand. So it is same. So please remind this that at the lowest point, price elasticity of demand is 0, highest point it is infinity, midpoint it is 1. At a point which lies between middlemost and lowest, elasticity is more than 0, less than 1. And at a point which lies between the highest and the middlemost point, the elasticity is more than 1, but less than infinity. Okay. So इथं आपण कंप्लीट केल्या सर्व मेथड्स. आता याच्यामध्ये जो नेक्स्ट पार्ट आहे, फॅक्टर्स इन्फ्लुएन्सिंग इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड. दिस इज इम्पॉर्टन्स ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड. हा पार्ट एक्सक्लूड झालाय आपल्या सिलेबस मधून फॉर द टाइम बिंग, त्यामुळे आता आपण तो रिव्हिजन सेशन मध्ये इन्क्लूड करत नाहीये. सो हियर फ्रेंड्स वी हॅव डन विथ द रिव्हिजन पार्ट रिलेटेड टू चॅप्टर नंबर 3B. प्लीज रिवाइज दिस पार्ट फ्रॉम द नोट्स as well as from the textbook, and then we will quickly go to the exercise part. Okay, so having revised this chapter number 3B in detail, we will go to the exercise part. So first question is question number 1. Complete the following statements. So price elasticity of demand on a linear demand curve at x-axis is 0. So price elasticity of a demand on a linear demand curve at the x-axis is 0 असणार आहे. Price elasticity of a demand on a linear demand curve at y-axis ही काय असणार आहे? Infinity. Demand curve is parallel to x-axis in case of perfectly elastic demand. Option A. Next, when percentage change in quantity demanded is more than percentage change in price, demand curve असणार आहे flatter. Now ED is 0 in case of necessaries. Next, give economic terms. Question number 2. Degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in income only, याला आपण म्हणतो income elasticity. Degree of responsiveness of a change in quantity demanded of one commodity due to change in the price of another commodity, याला आपण म्हणतो क्रॉस इलास्टिसिटी. Degree of responsiveness of a change in quantity demanded of a good to a change in its price, याला आपण म्हणतो price elasticity of demand. Elasticity resulting from infinite change in quantity demanded, perfect elasticity. Elasticity resulting from proportionate change in quantity demanded due to a proportionate change in price, unitary elasticity. Next is question number 3. Complete the correlation. Perfectly elastic demand, elasticity infinity. Perfectly inelastic demand, elasticity is 0. So PID, perfectly inelastic demand. शॉर्ट फॉर्म यूज करू नका, इथं लिहायला जागा कमी आहे, त्यामुळे मी शॉर्ट मध्ये लिहिले, तुम्ही हे डिटेल मध्ये लिहा. सेकंड आहे रेक्टँग्युलर हायपरबोला. इट इज UED, युनिटरी इलास्टिक डिमांड. स्टीपर डिमांड कर, रिलेटिव्हली इनइलास्टिक. स्ट्रेट लाईन डिमांड कर्व, लिनियर डिमांड कर्व. नॉन लिनियर डिमांड कर्वलाच म्हणतात कर्वी लिनियर डिमांड कर्व म्हणतात. मी इथं लिहितो, त्याला म्हणतात कर्वी लिनियर डिमांड कर्व. ओके. पेन अँड इंक कॉम्प्लिमेंटरी गुड्स, टी अँड कॉफी सबस्टिट्यूट्स. रेशो मेथड फॉर्म्युला दिलाय. जॉमेट्रिक मेथड, लोअर सेगमेंट अपॉन अपर सेगमेंट, जॉमेट्रिक मेथड और पॉइंट मेथड. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट है assertion and reasoning type questions. Question number 4. बघा, first statement है, elasticity of demand explains that one variable is influenced by another variable. The concept of elasticity of demand indicates the effect of price and changes in the other factors on demand. So here we can say that both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. So option number 3 याच्यामध्ये correct आहे. दुसरं statement आहे कि a change in quantity demanded of one commodity due to a change in the price of other commodity is the cross elasticity, and change in consumers income leads to a change in quantity demanded. आता both statements correct आहेत, पण त्यांच्यात interrelation नाहीये. So both A and R is true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Third आहे ते म्हणजे degree of price elasticity is less than 1 in case of relatively inelastic demand. Here change in demand is less than change in price. So both statements correct आहेत आणि R हे correct explanation आहे A चं, असं आपण म्हणू शकतो. So option 3 should be selected. So assertion reasoning मध्ये बघा, पहिल्याचा आन्सर आहे 3, दुसऱ्याचा आन्सर आहे 4 आणि तिसऱ्याचा आन्सर आहे ऑप्शन नंबर 3. Distinguish between relatively elastic, relatively inelastic, perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic. दोन्ही मध्ये लिहायचं आहे काय काय बघा. पहिल्यांदा लिहावं लागेल तुम्हाला दोन्हीचं मीनिंग प्लस डायग्राम, त्यातल्या न्यूमरिकल व्हॅल्यूज काय आहेत आणि तसं एक्झाम्पल. असे 4 पॉइंट्स तुम्ही लिहू शकता याच्यामध्ये. मीनिंग लिहायचं, डायग्राम लिहायचे, न्यूमरिकल व्हॅल्यूज लिहायचे आणि एक्झाम्पल. दोन्हीसाठी हे ऍप्लिकेबल आहे 1 आणि 2. ठीक आहे. त्यानंतर आहे की क्वेश्चन नंबर 6 आहे, आन्सर द फॉलोइंग क्वेश्चन. फॅक्टर्स इन्फ्लुएन्सिंग इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड एक्सक्लूड केलंय. इम्पॉर्टन्स ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड एक्सक्लूड आहे. टोटल आउटले मेथड ऍज पर टेक्स्टबुक लिहून इलॅबोरेट करा. क्वेश्चन नंबर 7 कडे जाऊया. एक डायग्राम दिली आहे, त्याच्यामध्ये 4 डिमांड कर्व्स आहेत आणि त्याच्यावरनं टाइप ऑफ प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड आपल्याला आयडेंटिफाय करायचं आहे. बघा, व्हर्टिकल डिमांड कर्व आहे, इलास्टिसिटी असणार आहे 0. हॉरिझॉन्टल डिमांड कर्व आहे, इलास्टिसिटी असणार आहे इन्फिनिटी. स्टीपर डिमांड कर्व आहे, सो इलास्टिसिटी असणार आहे मोर देन 0 लेस देन 1. आणि फ्लॅटर डिमांड कर्व आहे, सो इलास्टिसिटी असणार आहे मोर देन 1 लेस देन इन्फिनिटी. त्याच्यानंतर सेकंड क्वेश्चन आहे की एक एई हा लिनियर डिमांड कर्व दिलाय आणि काही स्टेटमेंट्स केले, ते ट्रू आहेत का फॉल्स आहेत ते सांगायचे. आता मी तुम्हाला जसं मगाशी सांगितलं शेवटी, त्याच्यामध्ये कुठल्याही लिनियर डिमांड कर्व मध्ये जेव्हा आपण पॉइंट मेथड वापरू त्यावेळेला हायएस्ट पॉइंटला प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी असणार आहे इन्फिनिटी आणि लोएस्ट पॉइंटला प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी असणार आहे 0. सो 0 पासून इन्फिनिटी पर्यंत रेंज असणार आहे लोएस्ट टू हायएस्ट. आता त्यानुसार आपण इथं स्टेटमेंट आयडेंटिफाय करू शकतो की डिमांड ऍट पॉइंट सी काय असणार आहे. तर बघा, पॉइंट सी इथं आहे, सो इट शुड बी लेस दॅन 1 मोर दॅन 0. पण त्यांनी म्हणलं की रिलेटिव्हली इलास्टिक डिमांड, तर हे फॉल्स आहे. व्हाय इट इज फॉल्स? बिकॉज डिमांड इज नॉट रिलेटिव्हली इलास्टिक, इन फॅक्ट इट इज रिलेटिव्हली इनइलास्टिक. सो व्हाय इट इज रिलेटिव्हली इनइलास्टिक? बिकॉज ऍज पर पॉइंट मेथड लोअर सेगमेंट ऑफ द डिमांड कर्व आपण अपर सेगमेंट ऑफ द डिमांड कर्व, याचं जे आन्सर आहे ते मोर दॅन 0 अँड लेस दॅन 1 येणार आहे. सो दॅट्स वाय डिमांड ऍट पॉइंट्स इज रिलेटिव्हली इनइलास्टिक, असं एक्सप्लेनेशन याचं लिहायचं. सेकंड, डिमांड ऍट पॉइंट बी इज युनिटरी इलास्टिक. आता पॉइंट बी ला डिमांड इज मोर दॅन 1 बट लेस दॅन इन्फिनिटी. So it is not unitary elastic. In fact, it is relatively elastic. Why it is relatively elastic? Because as per point method, at point B, the answer for the lower segment of the demand curve upon upper segment of the demand curve is more than 1 and less than infinity. So it is a relatively elastic demand, not unitary elastic. Demand at point D is perfectly inelastic demand. No, it is unitary elastic demand because the answer for the lower segment of the demand curve upon upper segment of the demand curve is 1. Therefore, demand is not perfectly inelastic. In fact, it is unitary elastic. So statement is false. And last, demand at point A, highest point, it is perfectly elastic demand. Yes, it is true, because the answer for the lower segment of the demand curve upon upper segment of the demand curve is infinity, and therefore the type is perfectly elastic demand. So the statement is true. So अशा प्रकारे डिटेल मध्ये तुम्ही हे इलॅबोरेट करायचं आहे. डायग्राम पण तुम्ही तुमच्या आन्सर मध्ये ड्रॉ करणं गरजेचं आहे. सो हियर चॅप्टर नंबर 3B चा जो एक्सरसाइज आहे तो इथं पूर्ण झालेला आहे. सो हा एक्सरसाइज सॉल्व करा, टेक्स्टबुक रीड करा, नोट्स रीड करा. ठीक आहे. सो एक्सरसाइज जर कंप्लीट केलेला नसेल तर कंप्लीट करा, कंप्लीट जर केलेला असेल तर आन्सर्स तुमचे कंपेअर करा. So friends, that's it from my side for the time being. I take your leave and we will meet in our next revision session. Till then, take care, keep studying. Thank you so much. All the best.